I'm going to take a little
Klobuchar.
different approach here than Mr. Hawley did when it comes to competition policy, because I understand why they might be coordinating when it comes to security. What I want to focus on is what I think we're seeing all over this country, not just in tech. We're seeing a startup slump. We're seeing more and more consolidation. And throughout history, we've seen that that is not good for small businesses. It's not good for consumers. And it's not good for capitalism in the end. Even successful companies, even popular companies, and even innovative companies are subject to the antitrust laws of this country. When I asked Mr. Pichai about this at the Commerce Committee hearing a few weeks ago, he said he told me Google was happy to take feedback, and my response was that the Justice Department already provided feedback in the form of a federal antitrust complaint. And I know there is investigation reportedly going on out of the FTC right now regarding your company, Mr. Zuckerberg. So I want to start with exclusionary conduct regarding excluding smaller competitors by limiting interoperability with the Facebook platform. The investigation that we saw in the House recently gave us a number of examples of companies, excluded companies, including Vine, Stackla, MessageMe, and Arc. And my view is this conduct, exclusionary conduct, not only damaged the ability of these smaller businesses to compete, but it deprived customers of convenient access. You're one of the most successful companies, biggest companies in the world, Mr. Zuckerberg, Facebook. Do you think that this is fair competition or not?
Yeah, I've tried to share external
With
links to
regards to
things
interoperability and how
and
you
had them
conducted
blocked,
yourself with these
saying
other
I'm not allowed to
companies?
share them.
Senator, I'm generally strongly in favor of interoperability and building platform and API access for companies to be able to access. That's why we built the Facebook platform in 2007. Some of the policies that you mentioned, I think came about because what we were seeing was not necessarily startups, but larger competitors like Google and some of our Chinese rivals from trying to access our systems in order to use their scale to compete with us better. And it just felt to us like at the time that wasn't the intent of what we were trying to enable.
Okay, well, we may have a non-Chinese example here. I just want to know, I know that maybe we could hear from Mr. Dorsey, and I have concerns about Facebook's treatment of Twitter's subsidiary Vine. It's my understanding is that once Facebook recognized Vine as a competitor after Twitter acquired it in 2013, it cut off Vine's ability to interoperate with Facebook so that Vine users couldn't upload their videos to Facebook. And then I think that Twitter shut down Vine in 2016. Mr. Dorsey, could you tell me about the actual impact of Facebook's actions on Vine's business, on Vine's ability to compete, and on your decision to shut down the service? And I know you're not a Chinese company.
Well, I don't know about the intent on the other side, but I know our own experience was we found it extremely challenging to compete with Vine, and ultimately decided that the ball moved past us and we shut it down. Again, I don't know the specifics and the tactics and what was done, but we did find a very, very challenging market to enter, even though we existed prior to some of our peers doing the same thing.
Okay, I'm going to move to something else quickly. Instagram and WhatsApp. We have some released internal Facebook emails in which you, Mr. Zuckerberg, wrote that Instagram was nascent, and if they grow to a large scale, they could be very disruptive to us. And in a later email, you confirmed that one of the purposes of Facebook acquiring Instagram would be to neutralize a competitor. You wrote those emails that were mentioned in that House report. Is that right, Mr. Zuckerberg?
Senator, I believe so. And I've always distinguished between two things, though. One is that we had some competition with Instagram in the growing space of kind of camera apps and photo sharing apps. But at the time, I don't think we or anyone else viewed Instagram as a competitor, as a kind of large multi-purpose social platform. In fact, people at the time kind of mocked our acquisition because they thought that we dramatically spent more money than we should have to acquire something that was viewed as primarily a camera and photo sharing app at the time.
Okay, well, and
So
then here's
I
the
think it's
issue, though,
important to distinguish.
we don't know how it would have done, and when we look at your emails, it kind of leads us down this road as well with WhatsApp, that part of the purchase of these nascent competitors is to, I'll use the words of FTC Chairman Joe Simons, who just said last week, a monopolist can squash a nascent competitor by buying it, not just by targeting it with anti-competitive activity. So I know that this is a subject of investigation. Maybe we'll be hearing something soon, but I think it's something that committee members better be aware of, not just with Facebook, but what's been going on with these deals that have gone through and how it's had led to more and more consolidation.
It's the first time
And how
I've liked
we,
what
as the
Klobuchar
Senate,
has to
I
say.
just talked to Chairman Graham about this last week, could actually do something about this by changing some of the standards in our laws to make it easier to bring these cases and not just involving tech. So I want to go to something here at the end, the political ad discussion we had in front of the Commerce Committee, Mr. Zuckerberg. I know you said that Facebook had made over $2 billion on political ads over the last few years. You said this was your, quote, relatively small part of your revenue. I know that, but it's a kind of a big part of the lives of politics when that much money is being spent on ads. This is a bill I actually have with Senator Graham. Yet we have seen these political ads that keep creeping through despite your efforts to police them on your own. And this is why I would so badly like to pass the Honest Ads Act. One ad that went through, it says, in 3 battleground states, ballots marked for Donald Trump had been discarded. Poll, will voter fraud only increase closer to November? So it stated in 3 battleground states, paid ad, ballots marked for Donald Trump have been discarded. This played between September 29th and October 7th, 2020, had up to 200,000 impressions. Does this ad violate Facebook's policy?
It shouldn't.
Sorry, can you repeat what the ad was?
The ad was an American Action News ad. They've advertised a lot of on your platform, and it said in 3 battleground states, ballots marked for Donald Trump had been discarded. This was pre-election.
Senator, I don't know off the top of my head if that specific ad violates our policies. I'd be happy to follow up.
Okay, would
afterwards on
you
that.
commit to a policy where actual people's eyes, people could review these ads instead of just being hit with algorithm review?
Senator, we do have review and verification of political advertisers before they can advertise.
Okay, so does every ad go through a human being? Like the
Senator,
TVs do?
I think every our policy is that we want to verify the authenticity of anyone who's doing political or social issue advertising. And I think it's worth noting that our people reviewers are not in all cases always more accurate than the technical system.
So are
I
you
think
saying
there are
a human being reviews every ad? It's just really yes or no, or I don't know.
Senator, I don't know.
Okay.
I don't think so.
Well, we'll follow up then in the written, and then you brought the cease and desist order against NYU for publishing a report that noting over the last 2 years, Facebook has not properly labeled approximately 37 million in political ads. Why would you not support this project? Why would you bring a cease and desist against them?
Senator, is that the project that was scraping the data in a way that might have been
That's your definition, but it's
FTC consent decree that we have?
The reason it's happening is we haven't passed the Honest Ads Act, but so they're not violating privacy. They're trying to get the ads so people can see the ads, other campaigns, journalists, everyone.
Senator, you know that I support the Honest Ads Act and agree that we should have that passed, and even before that, that we've implemented it across our systems. But I think in the case that you're referring to, that project was scraping data in a way that we had agreed in our FTC consent decree around privacy that we would not allow. So we have to follow up on that. And make sure that we take steps to stop that violation.
Okay, last, Mr. Dorsey, do you think there should be more transparency with algorithms as part of this is not just, and I'm off of the ads now, I'm on just generically. Part of this is that people don't know how this data is going across the systems and across the platforms, and people basically are buying access, has been my impression. So that even if you say, like, what's the news in the last 24 hours, old stuff comes up, something's gone awry from the beginnings of this. Would it be helpful, do you think, if there was more transparency with algorithms?
I do think it would be helpful, but it's technically very, very challenging to enforce that. I think a better option is providing more choice to be able to turn off the algorithms or choose a different algorithm so that people can see how it affects one's experience.
Okay, thank you. And I asked that both of you look at the bill that Senator Kennedy and I have, the Journalism Competition and Preservation Act, to help the content providers negotiate with digital platforms. Thank you.
Thank you. Senator Tillis.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining. Mr. Chairman, I know you've asked the question a couple of times about whether or not these platforms can be addictive. I think they probably can be, based on what I've read, and one of two ways. They could be just the nature of the personality and engagement in a tool that can that they can somehow relate to. But I also think there's a transactional addiction, and I think you also mentioned social dilemma. I think that's the use of analytics, which I don't criticize among the platforms, but it's the use of analytics to addict you to go down a certain path to produce a certain outcome. And that could either be an outcome forming an opinion, or an outcome buying something you didn't even think about 30 minutes before you started going down that path. So I think there are things that we've got to look at, and I do agree with Mr.
How about the fact when you
Mr.
open up
Dorsey,
some
it's not conclusive, but common sense would tell you
website somewhere,
it's a problem already, and it could become a bigger problem.
2 days later, the
Mr.
ads on your
Zuckerberg,
YouTube
I'd like to go
or your
back
Facebook
to
are for the thing
task
that you opened
platform
up and
for a
looked
minute.
at.
When I looked at the
I find that invasive.
screenshot that Senator Hawley put up, it looked a lot like a work management tool. Can you tell me a little bit about that, and how many people are actually engaged as users on that platform at Facebook?
Senator, yes, thank you. I was a bit surprised by Senator Hawley's focus on our task system, because all this is, it's a basic internal project management tool. It's exactly what the name sounds like. It's used by companies, by people across our company thousands of times a day to assign projects and track them. It's used for all manner of different types of tasks across different people and teams.
And do you know roughly how many Facebook either contractors or full-time employees are actually users of the task platform?
I think that probably the majority of Facebook employees and people we work with have some interaction with the task system as part of some part of their work. It's basically just a company-wide to-do list.
Yeah.
The other platform that Senator Hawley mentioned was the Centra platform. You said you weren't familiar with that one, but I think that is something that would be helpful, maybe as a follow-up, to really understand the nature of that platform.
Anyway, I think I'm
won't
done
press you
doing
on it
this.
today
I got
because
some
you
other
said you
news to
weren't
watch, and I just
specifically
wanted to
familiar with the name
basically
of the
give some enlightenment
tool,
to
but I
what is
would
going
be more
on
interested
here.
in how it's used.
Big
But,
tech censorship
Mr. Dorsey,
is exactly what's
does,
going on.
Twitter have a platform similar to the task platform for work management communication among staff?
I'm sure they do.
Absolutely. I mean, even the smallest companies use
I
these
think they
tools.
need to
We use a
subpoena all
tool
that
called Jira.
information and see
I was
who's
involved in
talking to
implementing
who
these
about
in,
what kind of censorship.
in my time in technology sector, so I could see why you have
Anyway.
these platforms. But Mr. Zuckerberg, you mentioned you didn't think there was a systematic coordination between Google and Twitter, but you could conceive of how people in similar professions, may have a discussion, have a relationship, maybe talk about it over a beer. So could you see how the skeptic could see how these platforms could be used across platforms to force certain outcomes? Let's say you had 100 people at Facebook, 100 people at Twitter, and 100 people at Google that all had a a political bent. They get together, they share notes, and then they go back and make decisions that could make it appear like it's a corporate initiative, but it could be an initiative by maybe some well-intentioned but misguided staff. Could you at least conceive of that being possible?
Senator, I understand the concern, and I think that coordination, specifically on writing the policies or enforcement decisions, could be problematic in the way that you're saying, which is why I really wanted to make sure that it was clear that what we do is share signals around potential harms that we're seeing, whether it's specific
stop
content
the
in the
steal
aftermath
is
of a
harmful.
terrorist attack that people are trying to share virally, so that way if one platform is seeing it, another platform can be prepared that it will probably see that content soon too. Signals around foreign interference in elections. But I think
all
it's quite
banned
important that each
first
company deals with
frontline
those
doctors'
signals in a
videos.
way that is in line with their own policies. And that, I think, is very different
And then put
from saying that
tags
the
all over
companies are
everything.
kind of coordinating to kind of figure out what the policy should be.
Anyway,
I understand
I'm
what the
about
concern
done
would
with
be
these
around that,
people,
and that's
I'll
why I
tell
wanted
you.
to be clear about what we do and don't do there.
I have no
agree with
intention
that.
on keeping a
I'd,
Facebook
I would
account
find
after
it,
all this stuff is
horribly
gone.
irresponsible to think that this was some sort of a systematic approach across the platforms, but just with the sheer numbers of people that you all employ now, I could see how some of what's been suggested here
In
in the
other
hearing
words, you've
could
been
actually
infiltrated
occur
by
with
a
just
faction of
small
people
groups of
who
people trying
are
to manipulate certain
coordinating
outcomes.
to manipulate
I don't want to get into details there,
dialogue.
except to know that the task platform, if it's similar to ones that I have experience with, has a lot of logging, has a lot of data to where maybe you could do yourself a service by saying, I hear what's been suggested here, but in analyzing the interactions between groups of people and seeing maybe some aberrations, some people being more active and more geared towards one outcome or another, it could actually help you alleviate some of our concerns with the way these platforms are being manipulated. I'm not going to have time to drill down into some of the specific questions. I am glad that, to hear that you all are open on some regulatory outcome. I will tell you, if you listen to my colleagues on both sides of the aisle today, I fully expect that Congress is going to act in the next Congress, that we're going to produce an outcome. And some people think that that's not possible because that maybe the Republicans and Democrats are far apart. But if you listen to what they're asking you, they're concerned with a kind of outcome that they didn't like on social media in equal measure. So I do believe that you would be well served to come to the table as an industry and identify things. Mr. Zuckerberg, I like what you've said about transparency. And
all
Mr.
you say.
Dorsey, I do think that the algorithms, when you talk about the sheer scale, are probably the most sustainable way to go. But we're still going to have some confidence. I like your concept on choice as well. But we're going to have more visibility into what's occurred and what's produced certain outcomes.
Compartmentalizing by
Veterans Day
choice.
post that I did after the election. It was actually after my opponent had conceded. I just
silencing.
posted a picture thanking veterans, and for a period of time, I think it was suspended and directing people towards election results. I would like to think, if that was a result of an algorithmic decision, that my opponent, who almost certainly posted a veterans ad, and every other person who was up for election got a similar treatment, because if they didn't, it would seem to me that there was some other factor in play if these algorithms are being applied to the base of, in that case, political commentary from elected officials or candidates. So
It is.
I view this hearing
It's all gonna
as
come
an
out very
opportunity to
soon.
seek your commitment on two things.
All
One, I
right,
mentioned
people.
to you all yesterday,
Done with this.
I've got a
Heard
intellectual
enough of
property
the
subcommittee hearing in the middle
BS.
of December. I would like to have a Facebook and Twitter representative there. I know you're very different platforms, but I think you play very prominently in a hearing that Senator Coons, who's sitting across from me now, would like to have you represented. I think I can speak for Senator Coons that would be helpful, and we'd like to get your commitment to have witnesses for that hearing in the middle of December. Mr. Zuckerberg, can I get that commitment?
Senator, yes, we will make sure that we have the right subject matter expert to join your hearing.
Thank you. And Mr. Dorsey?
we'll follow up with determining the best course of action.
Thank you. And then we'll be following up on a
That's a
series
yes,
of
and
questions
I'm gonna
that I'd
hedge
like
around
to
it.
ask that let me get my head around some of the analytics information that I think you almost certainly have, and hopefully be willing to share it, but we'll do that in a collaborative way in my office. Thank you for being here today.
Well, thank you. We're going to take a 5-minute break. I think our witnesses have requested a break, and they certainly have earned it. And if that's okay with you, Senator Coons, we'll come back in about 5 minutes. Thank you.
Well, they never give a straight answer. They never commit to anything. They're never going to admit that they're doing covert operations internally. They're never going to admit that their people are talking to each other across platforms, or that when one thing gets banned on Twitter, the same thing gets banned on Facebook, and vice versa. But it is true. It happens every time. And most of what they censor is opposing views to a liberal agenda. And it's sickening. And I'm tired of it, and the American people are tired of it, and 70 plus million people in America voted for Donald Trump, and we're all tired of it. How would you like to lose 70 plus million people on your platforms? Because we're leaving. We're done. Alright, well, please subscribe to my channel, and hit that notification bell, and like my videos if you can. Helps with my algorithm, and the fact that I've been shadow banned for posting who knows what that they just don't like, you know, just because I have conservative views and don't follow their liberal agenda. Alright, y'all have a good one. Bye-bye.